Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you're a focused learner, gearing up for your CIA exams, you already know the world of governance, risk, and control can feel, well, incredibly dense. But don't worry about it. We are going to systematically unpack these concepts today, transforming all that textbook jargon into clear, highly memorable takeaways. 30%. Let that sink in for a second. I'm leading with this number to really hook your attention because mastering internal controls isn't just a nice to have. It makes up a massive 30% of the Part 1 CIA exam. That means understanding the nuts and bolts of how an organization actually safeguards its assets and processes is absolutely crucial for your success. We're going to make sure you have this down cold. So here is our cognitive roadmap to help lower your study stress. We'll hit the basics of internal controls, the limits of control, who does what, navigating IT controls, and we'll wrap up with exam-focused types and examples.
All right, Section 1, the basics of internal controls.
Think about it. Without controls, a massive global organization would literally be absolute chaos. Assets would go missing, data would be totally corrupted, and operational risks would just constantly derail your goals. That is exactly why we have this definition right from the IIA glossary. I want you to mentally highlight this phrasing. Look at the key words. Increase the likelihood. That is highly testable. The entire core purpose of a control is managing risks so we actually hit our goals. Now, you're going to hear these three terms thrown around a lot, and it's super important to see how they build on each other. First up, we have the control environment. This is the tone at the top. Basically, just think of it as the organization's culture. Second, we have control processes. These are the specific policies designed to manage risks within a certain tolerance. And finally, the overarching concept of control itself, which represents the actual physical actions taken. Culture, policies, and actions. They're basically interconnected puzzle pieces working in perfect harmony. Moving on to Section 2, the limits of control. Listen, even the thickest, most high-tech safe box in the world isn't perfectly impenetrable. The exam absolutely loves to test this rule of contrast. Internal controls only provide reasonable assurance of achieving objectives. They never, ever provide absolute assurance. If you see a test question claiming a control perfectly guarantees an outcome or provides absolute assurance against fraud, flag it immediately. That's a classic exam trap. So, why only reasonable assurance? Well, it boils down to these four inherent limitations. First, faulty human judgment. Controls can fail simply because, we misread a number or make a typo. We've all done it. Second is management override. Think of an executive forcing accounting to ignore a policy just so they can hit a quarterly revenue projection. Third is collusion, where two or more employees secretly team up to bypass a system, like a buyer and a supplier faking invoices. And finally, the ultimate business rule. The cost of an internal control must never be greater than its actual benefit. Section 3, who does what? We've got to clearly separate these duties, because your exam will definitely test your understanding of who stands where. Senior management oversees the whole system. They're the ones establishing and administering the control framework. Then the operational managers on the ground assess the controls within their daily responsibilities. But, and here is the crucial distinction for Test A, internal auditors do not build the controls. Internal auditors simply provide the independent, objective assurance to make sure those controls actually work the way they're supposed to. Okay, Section 4, navigating IT controls. When we step into the digital realm, you've got to remember that decreased human involvement means fewer simple typos, sure, but it also means a subtle programming error can go completely undetected for a really long time. The crucial exam point here is knowing the hard line between two distinct categories: the big, broad umbrella of IT general controls versus the highly specific IT application controls. Let's break these down so you never confuse them on the test. Think of IT general controls like the main security framework of a massive office building. They apply to all computerized systems and applications. This is your fundamental mix of software, hardware, and manual procedures shaping the overall tech environment. We're talking things like program change management, keeping clean backups, having a formal security policy. These are the things that protect the whole building. On the flip side, IT application controls are like the customized key cards required to open individual doors inside that building. They differ with every single business process or application. So, if you have a specific software handling payroll, the application controls are the customized rules built right into that specific software to make sure payroll data is accurate and secure. Let's look at the actual life cycle of an application control, which happens in 3 phases. Input controls ensure the data you're entering is authorized and accurate, whether you're doing it in massive batches or just typing it in online. Then, processing controls manage the actual math and logic. A fantastic example is concurrency. That's a control preventing 2 users from booking the exact same airplane seat in a database at the exact same time. And finally, output controls ensure the end results have full integrity and get distributed to the right people.
Section 5, Exam Focus, Types and Examples.
You absolutely have to know these 4 core control types inside and out. Preventative controls try to deter an unwanted event before it happens. Think of a padlock. Detective controls act like a smoke alarm, alerting people after an unwanted event occurs. Corrective controls step in to remedy the negative effects of that event, like a backup generator restoring power. And directive controls encourage a desirable event to happen, like having a mandatory training manual. Just memorize these 4 distinct verbs for the exam: deter, alert, remedy, and encourage. Next up, we need to contrast compensating controls with complementary controls. A compensating control, which is also known as a mitigative control, reduces a risk to an acceptable level when another primary control fails or is completely missing. A complementary control, on the other hand, works alongside other controls to collectively reduce risk. So on the exam, immediately link compensating with making up for a weakness and complementary with working together as a team. Let's zoom out and look at this through a macro lens. Entity-level controls are designed to achieve massive organizational objectives and address entity-wide risks. These are established at the absolute highest level by the board of directors. Classic examples include your overarching code of conduct, really broad governance policies, and period-end reporting controls. They cast a huge, wide net over the entire organization. Now, dropping below that entity level, we hit process-level controls. This is like using specific revenue and cost center reports to monitor a single business unit. Drill down even further than that, and you hit transaction-level controls. These address risks specific to individual day-to-day transactions. And the absolute classic exam example here, segregation of duties, making sure the person who approves an invoice is never the same person who actually signs the check. Finally, whatever you do, don't confuse physical controls with logical access controls on your exam. Think passwords versus padlocks. Access controls are logical. They're usually embedded in IT, so think passwords, ID numbers, biometric scanners, and system logs tracking your digital footprints. Physical controls are real-world, tangible actions, locking a warehouse door, requiring physical keycards, or doing actual physical inventory counts of the boxes sitting on your shelves. I want to leave you with this one final, pretty provocative thought. Are your organization's controls costing more than the risks they actually prevent? Because it all ties right back to that ultimate limitation we talked about earlier, the cost-benefit analysis. A control might be beautifully, flawlessly designed, but if it costs $10,000 to prevent a $1,000 risk, it is fundamentally flawed. Keep this crucial balance of efficiency and effectiveness top of mind, and you are going to be in fantastic shape for your exam. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep up the focused studying, and I will see you next time.